So I work for Wastren Advantage, which is a for-profit company. This company has the contract with the U.S. Department of Energy to run a research monitoring surveillance program on the Idaho National Laboratory site, which is, let's see. So this site is located in southeastern Idaho in the western United States. It is it's approximately 900 square miles, so it's right on the edge of a Snake River Plain, which is predominantly sagebrush steppe. It's a couple hours drive from Yellowstone National Park, so that gives you kind of an idea of where we are. And primarily what we do here is we operate the monitoring and research program on this landscape, which includes some of the monitoring or some of the species that you see here. I'm just talking about the wildlife side of things. We have botanists as well. But so our job is to these species have regulatory compliance concerns for Department of Energy or DOE, and so we deal with that. So in 2011, I was working for the Wildlife Conservation Society, and DOE, the Department of Energy, contracted with us then to develop a conservation management guide or a conservation management plan for the INL site. So we did that. We had DOE put a lot of resources into it. We were able to spend like 7 months meeting weekly for about 3 hours a week, develop a really good plan. Now, unfortunately, we're working with the government, and once we finished the plan, it went up to the high management levels, including, I think, Washington, D.C., and for some reasons I won't go into now, they said, oh, we don't like it, we're not going to do it. And so they essentially trashed our plan. And that could be a whole discussion on its own of lessons learned, but the point here is, you know, we put a lot of effort into it, and so we still internally use a lot of components of this plan and the Miradi to guide our internal decisions, but it's not formally acknowledged by the Department of Energy. What we do right now, and I'll just move this here, is we primarily, the way we use Miradi is to retrofit our current plans and agreements. So for example, we have an agreement with the U.S. between the Fish and Wildlife Service and the Department of Energy to conserve greater sage-grouse on the INL site. And what we did, this was not put together using the open standards framework, but once it was signed, I took that agreement and basically took the components, the threats and the targets, to use the open standards language, and basically created a project after the fact. And that's what we use internally. We don't talk about the open standards in that agreement, but this, for example, is one of the results chains. We took each of the conservation measures and we developed results chains, and that's how we monitor our progress and adaptively manage what we're doing here. And so it's been super valuable to do that. We have a bat protection plan that we're just about finished with. I'll do the same thing there. And so it's kind of like, I don't know, using the tools in Miradi to help us do a better job. So that's the main use of Miradi right now on our project. Just to throw out a couple of suggestions for improvements, which is asked to do. There's a couple of small things that we've run into using Miradi. For example, we deal a lot with single target projects. For example, this agreement is for sage-grouse. The target we agreed upon is one species. And as many of you probably know, if you only have one species, sage-grouse, as the target, when you rate the threats, that's going to cause, because of the algorithm, the summary threat rating will be downgraded because there's only a single target. And so the display, if you're looking at an overall, you know, display, it will downgrade, not show the threats as we want them displayed. So to get around that, I create a ghost target, I call it, so that a fictional target that I rate the threats exactly the same way as the original one. And now there's two targets, and now Miradi will appropriately display the threads. Now, it'd be really nice if Miradi had a little box you could click that says this is a single target project, and that would cause the algorithm to be overridden and to just simply display the threats of the single target. Anyway, so that's a little something that would work better for us. And then finally, last thing, probably many of you know, the strategy rating tool is limited on Miradi. When we put together the management plan, the couple of options that it provided were not sufficient for us. We had a lot more internally, other things to consider. So we developed our own matrix. You can see here across the top row, these are the things we considered in rating our strategies. Be nice if there was more flexibility, certainly in Miradi for that. I understand there's that balance between having flexibility and balancing and having a framework that is consistent. So anyway, I'll leave it with that. There's my contact information.